Oh, the self-destruction of the United States of America is by far the most deserved downfall in human history. And no person with any sort of a conscience, no person with any sort of a conscience whatsoever would lift a finger to prevent it. And I'm telling you, it is an insult to every single person of every single nation that your country ever terrorized, to every individual of every nation that your country ever robbed or exploited or massacred. It's an insult to everyone that they are oppressing right now and throughout their monstrous history. It's an insult to every enslaved ancestor of every African, to every ancestor of every Native American. It's an insult to the ancestor of every Filipino, every Hawaiian, every Puerto Rican, every Mexican. It's an insult to the people of Iraq, to the people of Afghanistan, to the Palestinians, and the list is endless. It's an insult to literally the hundreds of millions of Uncle Sam's victims for you to want to avert his punishment in any way whatsoever, because you have the gall to come here and tell us that he still has a good heart and there's a chance that he can change.
I think that we're living a very important time in the world. It's a big shift. It is probably what I would call the beginning of the end of the American empire. And it has to come. All the empires change. So now, you know, it's accelerating. But we are in a very good position because we have the land, we have, you know, the best educated people in the world. Do you know that? And we have the tolerance that is a great value. We are the sharing that does not exist in many other countries. We have less very, very rich people per capita, but less very, very poor people too in Canada. And we have the unity that we have to fight all the time about that.
If there's one thing I've become convinced of, it's that Donald Trump was selected to manage the ultimate phase of the decline of the American empire, Pax Americana, right? The American peace period, and aid in its transition to its replacement. Similarly to the way that Pax Britannica transitioned to Pax Americana. And I believe our new phase will be called Pax Judaica. Now, stupid people will hear that and say, you're saying there's a secret cabal of high-power Jews running the world. That's not what this means. It's called Pax Judaica because Jerusalem is the only binding element of this strategy, of the underlying strategy that is being used to drive the world towards Pax Judaica.
The American empire will collapse in the next 5 to 10 years because it is overstretched, too much debt, too much corruption, too much inequality. It's in too much debt, and it is really angering the entire world. It's basically unifying the entire world against it right now. Say empires last around 200 years. And so we are now in the twilight of the American empire. And the other thing that we know is you can't actually stop the decline of empires. So Oswald Spengler, who is a German theoretician, he argues that we are human beings and we have natural life cycles because we're organisms. Well, societies are the same way, where empires, they will be born, they'll rise, and they'll die. And it's a good thing because that's what allows for constant human innovation.
Do you think that will happen in my lifetime? I'm 30 years old, 33 years old.
It may happen in everyone's lifetime. It may happen in the next 5 to 10 years. We are seeing...
Do you think that's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years?
I think there's a very strong possibility.
And if that is to be the case, what would you give me as advice as a 33-year-old? What actions should I be thinking about taking now, based on what you know about history, to make sure that, you know, it's not too bad for myself? I guess I'm asking this question in light of you predicting that there might be a collapse of the sort of Western or the American empire. And in such a scenario, I was wondering what it would look like to be an American. And is there a solution or a course of behavior one should take in such a scenario? But I guess that's the key question, which is, if the US empire does collapse, how does American life change or Western life change?
Okay. So one theory that's very important to understand is something called Hermetic philosophy. And Hermetic philosophy is what underpins Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Mm-hmm. And Hermetic philosophy comes from Egypt. And it has certain principles, but its main principle is that reality is energy, it's vibrations. Okay, so we think of it as material, but material is a consequence of energy, right? So what this means is that reality is consciousness itself. So our thoughts are what's real. Our bodies are just vehicles to experience the world around us, but they're not real. When we die, our souls return to the source and we come back again. And we're here permanently in order to experience things we cannot experience in the spiritual world, because in the spiritual world, it's not material. Okay? So what's really important is to appreciate that every one of us is part of the source. And so if we think about the totality of things, we can only become despondent. We can only give up hope. But if we think about how individually we can become a better person.
What is the worst case scenario of what we're going through right now that is uniquely f***ing crazy?
I don't think what people are really prepared for is if the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency.
Yes.
Like, a lot of the benefits we've gained from the U.S. world order are going to start to go away real fast. I kind of think we're already here. Like, I think that the world is going to get reordered around us. The Europeans and the Canadians and the Australians are going to think they're more reliable partners. The Russians and the Chinese are never going to be reliable partners for us. And I think that we're going to be very alone, and I think that we're going to decline economically in ways that's going to hurt a lot of people. And I think we probably are going to end up in a place like where kind of my middle, like not my optimistic scenario, but my middle scenario is that like we retrench and become more like a France or a Germany, but without the social democracy obligations. But I just mean like in like what role we play, like where we're kind of just like one of the other nations. I think potentially it could turn into more like a Turkey or a Hungary type situation.
Oh, wow. That's a big gap.
Yeah, oh yeah, quite a big gap. Yeah, and they're both significantly worse than our current
France
situation.
to Turkey is a pretty
Yeah.
big gap in
Yeah.
what...
Yeah, but I'm saying like
be.
France is kind of like my like good, like that's a good outcome I think for me. Ostensibly there's another media tour happening around, the Abundance guys, Ezra and them. Like they're
we had them on
they,
show.
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
They're envisioning a future that's like even more optimistic for our country, where people are, where there's more wealth that is distributed to people at all scales of the income bracket, and we're solving a lot of problems and solving health problems, and AI is leading us to a new future. Like I don't know, man. I think that it's much more likely right now that we're in a retrenchment mode.
When historians look back, 2026 is going to be considered to be the beginning of the end of the United States as a superpower. It hasn't even been 1 month, and already we've had 5 major events. The first is, despite the kidnapping of President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, nothing's actually changed in Venezuela. In fact, the kidnapping was so unpopular that Venezuelans in the country, including the opposition, rallied around the government. Now, Trump keeps bragging how he's going to get all his free oil from Venezuela. That's not true. The oil, yes, is being sold at a discount, but Venezuela is actually getting some of that revenue. Already, they've actually apparently gotten $300 million worth of it. The second has to do with Canada. We saw Prime Minister Mark Carney go to China. And this is quite shocking because Canada is often considered to be the closest ally of the United States. And of all the countries in the world, is actually the most reliant on the United States for trade. But Trump's threats to annex the country has greatly angered Canadians, leading Prime Minister Carney to go to China to hopefully boost trade. And in that meeting, it was actually largely successful. The two countries agreed to drop tariffs against each other, and Canada actually plans to increase its exports to China by 50% over the next 4 years, and in doing so is distancing itself from the United States. The third has to do with Iran. At the height of the Iran protests, it seemed Trump was going to bomb the country. Now, this is not something I support, but if there was a time it was going to happen, that probably would have been it. Because as the protests were growing, a lot of Iran's security forces were distracted and thus would have had a hard time resisting the United States. But Trump chickened out, and the Iranian government still remains. And now that the protests have died somewhat, Iran's even more prepared should the United States decide to attack it. The fourth has to do with this whole thing regarding Greenland. Trump keeps saying he wants to annex Greenland, and this has alienated the Europeans, which until recently were some of the closest allies of the United States. And already the Europeans have retaliated at least somewhat, with pension funds in Denmark and Sweden selling their US dollars. This is actually a very significant move because when you sell the US dollars, the value of the dollar goes down, and therefore this actually undermines the United States' financial hegemony as well as the US economy. Now, Trump has apparently backed down from annexing Greenland as of the time of filming of this video, but the damage to the US dollar has already been done. Fifth and finally, absolutely my favorite, is the fact that despite the horrible genocide going in Gaza, and despite the billions of dollars the United States has sent to Israel, the Palestinian resistance still remains strong. Israel has caused a lot of destruction, but what's received in return is growing alienation from the international community and increasing unpopularity even in Western countries.
So guys, the end of an era is clearly here for America, and you have watched this video. I know some of you have thought about these things on your own, you know, when things are happening and you are unable to make up for what is happening, you cannot help but think about these things, you know, the possibilities that are there for America, whatever is happening to America, you know. When you talk about the end of an era, we are talking about the collapse of a country that has for a very long time been on the top. Yeah, I have said here not once, not twice, that America has been the benchmark country for very many countries in the world. And if something is going wrong in America, then the other countries have a reason to worry, because most of the things that they do are controlled by America. Now, when America is falling apart, it is a worry and it's a fear to the rest of the world. Now, the end of an era is not merely happening because, you know, it was destined to. It is happening because there are very many things that have played a part. For example, bad governance. And when we're talking about bad governance, we automatically know what we're saying. That the people that you vote in, the people that you accept to give power to, the people that you accept to hold offices, and some of the top offices in the country, they really matter and they determine everything that will happen to that country. Now, for America, there's a lot of things that are going wrong. In as much as people are not exactly discussing them, they are actually, you know, engaging in these thoughts. They are giving their mind on this. And for example, talking about the taxes, yeah, not taxes. I mean, the debts that America owes. For a country to get into an economic depression, those are some of the factors that someone needs to take care of. Now, America is in debt, and many people are aware of that, you know, and it's worrying them. It's making them to start wondering, because they need to figure out this thing, because we cannot continue like that. America cannot keep going like that, because you cannot survive on debts, yeah? And if you're surviving on debts, your chances of collapsing are very high, yeah? Now, leave alone even the debt situation, and you know that is happening to America, it's happening to the rest of the world as well. We're talking about corruption, you know, the corruption, the level of corruption that is in America these days is unmatched. And for many people that have seen America when it was doing so well economically in the world, they can bear witness that their things were not running the way that they are right now. Right now, we're talking about a very high level of corruption that these leaders are exhibiting, and they're doing that without a shame, without, you know, even hiding it. You know, there's a way that you can be corrupt, you can be doing shoddy things, but you hide it. Now, these people are doing it in your faces, right in your faces. When you're looking at the leadership, you know, we don't even have to go so far. Look at President Trump and the things that he's doing. His main interest is not America. He does not care what is happening to Americans. He does not care anything that Americans are going through, you know. For him, those things are like okay, and he has made peace with that. So it's America almost fighting for themselves, you know. Americans are slowly giving up. How many people have you seen making videos or talking about life has become extremely difficult? We are unable to cope, we are unable to go on. I actually have seen a couple of videos where young people are talking about leaving America, you know. They just want to migrate, go to somewhere else. And you wonder sometimes, Where are they even going? Yeah. For people to leave their own mother country and decide that it's even better for them to go to the rest of the world that is not even their country, it has to be really bad, the situation. And for them to feel disillusioned like that, there's a lot of factors that have to be, not working. Now, the country is in a lot of shambles, a lot of chaos right now. And the only thing that you need to hear is the president talk about these issues. You cannot have a house that is collapsing and the father of the house is quiet. And when he says something, he's saying something that is completely off and even irritating more. President Trump has failed in his leadership, and that is evident in the things that he's doing, the things that he keeps saying on social media. People are waiting for him to come out and talk about things that are helpful to the country, things that are going to help the country to get back to its feet. But he is out here, like recently he came out to trash talk former President Obama. And you wonder, where do you even get this kind of time to have someone live rent free in your head instead of you being worried about the situation that Americans are facing, the hard times? People are complaining about a lot of things. Americans are tired. White, black, Asian, whatever. People are tired. Every time you are on social media, those are the videos that you see. People complaining about the economic times. They're unable to afford basic things. It's not even the times where people used to complain about not being able to afford luxuries. Yeah. People are unable to afford basic stuff, food, housing, clothing. Everything has become completely unachievable. People have even lost the dream of owning a home, because how do you own a home in a world where you are even unable to afford food? How much do you need to save for you to be able to cater for all those needs? People are working 2, 3 jobs right now. Actually, 3, 4 jobs. They have no time to rest. They have no time for their families. They are basically just surviving. People are just on autopilot mode because the situation is not getting better. Look at the fuel prices. The fuel prices are hiking every single day. Now that means that movement for people is actually being interfered with. People are unable to afford gas. Yeah. And that just goes to show you how much the situation is bad. And for everything to be falling apart like that, there has to be something wrong with the system. The system that is being tampered with. There's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that Americans don't know. And it will come out in broad daylight soon enough. Because when things start collapsing like this, of course, they will poke holes and they will find the truth. There's a lot of corruption with the leaders, a lot of corruption, and very selfish leaders that Americans elected. Extremely selfish, that the only thing they care about is their families and themselves, their friends sometimes. So the Americans are actually like left on their own. They are fighting for themselves. Nobody is there to care what they are going through, to care if they will survive tomorrow or even today. Nobody is bothering about that. Like, this is the kind of time that you want your president to be seated somewhere addressing the nation, talking about, I am thinking of doing this and this to curb this and that. He's not doing that. He's busy with other missions that do not even concern America and Americans. He's busy entertaining his friends, entertaining himself, his family. He has forgotten that his role is to protect Americans. Now, Americans are out here worried because they do not know what tomorrow brings. Everything is just falling apart and they are only remaining hopeful. Hopeful for what, you'd ask? I do not know. But they're being hopeful because what can they do? They can only hope that he comes back to his senses, does what he has to do to make sure that these things are okay. That is what is happening in America right now. And I know you guys have thoughts and you have had, I'm sure you cannot be going through all these things just silently. You have been thinking about what is really happening in America and the things that are needful for the president to do, you know, the leadership to do, to make things better, to make the situation get at least easier for the Americans. Guys, let me know what you think about this video in the comment section, and let me know what you feel about this. What do you think is the solution to this? Because this is going to be extremely hard. It's going to be extremely hard, because if by now things are the way that they are, then we cannot even predict what will be happening in the next few years. It will get worse. It can only get worse unless something is done, and urgently. So guys, let me know what you think. If you have not subscribed to my channel, kindly consider doing so. And returning subscribers, thank you so much for the support, guys. You're the best. I have no words for you. You are just extremely, you know, appreciated, and you're simply the best. Yeah. So guys, I hope that you're also keeping safe. You're watching out for your friends and families. I will see you on my next video. Bye for now.